What if you were playing League of Legends in your Gunnerman cave and suddenly you got transported into a Coliseum, right in the middle of a tournament arc? On top of that, you are given the ability of copying your opponent's skill. Sounds good, right? That's until you realize this is the most useless skill in this world, and on top of that, if you lose a fight, you get your cheeks clapped by the winner.
Why are you gay?
But you don't have to imagine that part since the manga we are going to recap does it for you. Here's the name of this masterpiece, so I better not see you guys asking for name in the comments section, or else I'll pray you get reincarnated in this manga. The story starts in a dark, musty room, lit only by the glow of a gaming monitor. Our boy Koji, a certified basement demon, is deep in a ranked battle. Other than being a gamer, he is painfully average in every other aspect of life. He's chugging G Fuel like it's holy water, telling himself this will be his last game before sleep. But then a literal magic portal spawns under his crusty gamer feet, and before he can even Alt plus F4, he gets yeeted into a massive Coliseum. He wonders where is he and thinks it is one of those so-called otherworldly summoning. But then a woman with milk jugs so big that she can single-handedly solve the global starvation introduces herself as the head priest. Her name is Zaid and says she was the one who summoned him. Before Koji could say anything, they decide to check his skills. Turns out he has no initial skills and he is a real-life NPC in his own manga. But all is not lost because he has one blessing skill, the skill of copying. Koji gets excited because he finally got the OP skill of those isekai manga protagonists when they are reincarnated. But apparently, copying is the most useless skill known to mankind in this world. Which means our boy Koji is cooked. Zaid orders her minions to take him to the Coliseum because he is nothing more than a sword-fighting slave.
A few moments later,
a buff-looking dude kicks Koji's butt and throws him in a cellar. But before going, he reveals that in this world your status is determined by your skill. But since his skill is copying, he'll be treated like trash no matter where he goes. As Koji's coping, he hears a laugh behind him. He turns around and sees a female captive who says Koji has no luck because he got summoned with a copying skill. She explains that Koji's been summoned to a country called Bumbledole, currently beefing with their neighbors. So, they summon warriors from Earth like Pokemon cards who'll fight for them. Every summoned warrior gets a random skill, and if the skill is powerful, that warrior will get preferential treatment and become a soldier for the country. On the other hand, nobody gives a crap about people with trash skills, because a summoning requires 1,000 mana stones. So they are turned into live entertainment for the people of this country and are sent to the Coliseum. If that wasn't bad already, Zulu reveals that if you lose a match, you get stripped but naked and your cheeks get clapped in front of the whole Coliseum. Koji's like, wait, but I'm a dude. But Zulu says it's irrelevant. He assumes the worst and thinks he'll have to slurp some warrior's glizzy. Turns out it's worse than that because if he loses, he'll turn into a woman and then get his cheeks clapped by the winner. Basically, if a guy wins, he does the clapping. If a girl wins, she grows her own magic sword and still does the clapping. At this point, bro realizes he's not cooked. He's deep-fried. Zulu asks him how he plans to use his copying skills, but first, he wants to know why copying is considered such a useless skill. She explains that in a fight, the person you are facing will use a skill they are very familiar with. On the other hand, the person with the copying skill will be using it for the very first time, which means their proficiency with that skill would be 0. With an evil grin on her face, she pulls out a knife and asks Koji what kind of a person could use a tool that they have never trained with. Even if the skill is vital, it's of no use if the user is clumsy. On top of that, Koji will most likely be facing Torture Mary, a gladiator mommy who steps on losers just for fun. Honestly, I'd volunteer as tribute. Zulu straight up tells him that he is going to get his ass handed to him, and his only chance of winning is to outlast Mary, which is impossible. Our boy Koji starts shitting his pants like a toddler because he is going to be used as a meat relief, simply because they think of this as a game. But then something clicks for him. He starts laughing maniacally, which makes Zulu think he has probably lost his mind. Fighting with skills, I won't die even if I die. This is just like a video game. His gamer instincts kick in and he thinks it's just like a super realistic VR game, which means he can grind for hundreds of hours and discover all the possible strategies to beat this game. He gets excited upon realizing all the different routes. Although he may be a below-average Joe in real world, he is a top-level gamer who has never lost a single game in his life, just like his virginity. With big dick energy flowing through his body, he starts smiling like a maniac. Meanwhile, in another room, we see an old geezer walking into Torture Mary's chamber. She's in the middle of her torture session, aka stepping on losers. Upon hearing about her match, she smiles like a dummy mommy and plans to castrate his opponent, so she can use him as her bitch forever. Lord have mercy, I may have creamed in my pants. The scene then shifts to the Coliseum, where people are screaming on top of their lungs as if they saw their favorite Twitch streamer IRL. The announcement lady then formally introduces us to Mary, the lady of the flame built like the final boss of OnlyFans. She has a perfect record of making me goon 20 out of 20 times and has never lost a fight. On the other hand, stands her opponent and our gooner protagonist Mikigami Koji. The crowd starts booing him and tell him to get lost. But bro just stands there like a Chad JoJo character and keeps aura farming. Mary gets up from her throne, shaking the stadium with them juicy thunder cakes and tells Koji that if his body stops responding in the middle of the battle, then she'll just make him her baby girl and properly make babies with him. Among the chaos, like a confident man who is packing a 6-inch Subway sandwich in pants, Koji walks towards her, takes a deep breath, and announces to the whole area that he will defeat her. On top of that, he is going to clap her big booty cheeks and cream in them thick thighs. Hearing those words, every single degenerate in the arena starts cheering for our boy, and this makes the higher authorities upset. Zulu watches from the sides and wonders if he is being deadass right now. She looks at his gooner smile and realizes maybe this virgin really is cooking something. Turns out our boy ain't just a clown, bro actually gathered intel on Mary before the fight and rage-baiting her was also part of his plan. Man's playing 4D chess while everyone else is still trying to find the tutorial. She instantly takes the bait and fires off her purgatory flames, lighting up the whole Coliseum like a Christmas tree. Koji barely dodges her attack, but before he could recover, she launches another one. But this time he copies her backstep evasion and slides out like a Souls player dodging Rent. With a cheeky grin, he decides to counter with his own purgatory flame. But instead of a firestorm, his flame was small and weak. Just like the wiener of the people who watch this video but don't subscribe. The flame hits her and nothing happens. Turns out her armor has fire nullification, meaning Koji basically threw a candle at a flamethrower. She starts spamming more attacks like a button-mashing Tekken player, and Koji's out here rolling, dodging, and praying like his life depends on it.
A few moments later.
Halfway through the battle, half the arena looks like it just went through a Call of Duty nuke strike. To end his suffering, Mary offers our boy a deal. Become my slave and I might let you live. But Koji tells her that hunting noobs while you are a pro sounds pretty lame. But since he is a nice guy, once he defeats her, he'll make her strip and kneel down in front of the entire arena. The rage bait works once again and Mary's ego shatters on the spot. She once again starts spamming purgatory flames. But this time, Koji's moving differently. Man's dodging every hit like he unlocked Ultra Instinct DLC, and starts bouncing around the battlefield like a cracked-out Beyblade. Out of nowhere, he teleports behind her and throws his entire body weight into her. The impact sends her crashing to the ground, dazed and confused. Before she can even recover, Koji's already got a knife pressed against her neck, warning her to stay put, or else he will stab her. Koji tells her that he can do whatever he wants with her. Neither Zaid nor the judges would step in, no matter what he does to her. So he asks Mary the million-dollar question, would you rather get your cheeks clapped while you are dead or alive? Upon hearing the word dead, Mary starts panicking like a Valorant teammate holding Spike alone, and tells Koji she'll do anything. Those were the words he was waiting for, so with a villainous smirk on his face, he says, did you just say I'll do anything? He reminds her of every cruel word she said before and tells her to do the exact same thing. In a shocking turn of events, Mary strips but naked in front of the entire Coliseum and apologizes to Koji, saying she'll never do a terrible thing to another person. Zaid's jaw hits the floor and she starts losing her mind like, how the hell did this NPC just beat a boss character? Meanwhile, Koji stands there smiling, like he just bagged his first Pokemon and vows to never lose a fight in this world. Mary staggered forward while Koji tightened the rope around her wrists. As the door opened, Zulu congratulated our boy on his victory and gave Mary the bombastic side eye while sarcastically roasting her. She casually mentioned that Mary had always dreamed of losing her V-card to someone stronger than her, so technically this outcome was perfect for her. Mary's expression drained faster than a phone battery at 1%, and she snapped back, swearing that she would kill both of them. Koji yanked the rope around her wrist and told her to shut the fuck up for a moment. Panic flickered across her face and Koji suddenly remembered Zulu's earlier advice. Treat Mary like a bitch, because apparently, she respects tough guys and this was step one to tame her. Zulu praised him for following the plan and pointed out how Mary was already falling for him. Before leaving, she told Koji to visit the secretary for the official post-battle procedures. At the reception desk, a hot mommy with glasses handed Koji a special room key and 2 vials of a secret drug. She tells him about the compatibility ritual between victor and loser, in which the two must drink the potions and stay inside a sealed room and play Smash Brothers for 24 hours straight. If the ritual failed, they would be forced to repeat it. Mary was started to get nervous because it was her first time getting jiggy with a man. Meanwhile, Koji was also shitting his pants because he is a virgin as well, and since he was an introvert who always played League of Legends, he never touched grass and got himself a girlfriend. But then without hesitation, he chugs the entire secret drug vial in a single gulp, and this makes Mary nervous. The chamber they entered was small, just like Wiener, but it met all the basic requirements, so it was livable. Before Koji could sit down, the elixir suddenly hit him like a Japanese bullet train. The potion worked fast, his pulse skyrocketed and he started sweating instantly. He threw Mary on the bed, whipped out his 6-incher and gave Mary them daddy backshots. Koji finally stepped out of the chamber looking like Mary drained every single drop of his white mayonnaise. Zulu greeted him with a laugh and informed him that he'd been inside for 3 days straight, something he hadn't even processed. Koji immediately insisted on going to the city shop and she agreed, because they need to talk about his next opponent as well. She guided him into the lively streets of the Dango Citadel, the second largest city in the region, and explained that they can get whatever they want from here. She also revealed that Zaid is one of the 9 archbishops, and is deeply involved in every corrupt business imaginable. From gambling to contract assassination, they are involved in everything. After reaching a bar and decide to talk inside a private room, since they won't be overheard. Zulu starts by congratulating him on his victory, but reveals that his situation hasn't gotten any better. She warns him that he is now on Zaid's radar, and since he humiliated a fighter from Zaid's nation, she'll target him with everything. So now he needs to do everything in his power to survive in that Coliseum. Zulu reveals that she has her own personal grudge against Zaid, and she wanted to destroy her for a long time. So he needs to keep winning because her goal is to support Koji long enough for him to crush Zaid completely. With this announcement, they shake hands and promise to stick together like ass cheeks until they destroy Zaid. She reveals that beyond Mary, Zaid has 3 more fighters. Finn Catastrophe, a fighter who possessed over 100 skills and fought like a walking library of pain. Alice Cotton, a woman who uses spatial manipulation skill, meaning she could disappear or swap spots at her own will. Third one, and potentially Koji's next opponent, Merle Barak, a massive muscle mommy with ridiculous strength, and she is undefeated as well. Furthermore, she also has 3 types of power buffs, which makes her Koji's toughest opponent. He felt worried about their plan, but Zulu assured him she could handle her part. She claimed to be stronger than most fighters and made that clear with a confident smile. The scene then shifts to a castle, where Zaid was stomping the ground in frustration and hurling insults straight at Koji. Her fury shocked the nearby fighters, and one of them commented on how mad she looks. Zaid turned around and saw her remaining 3 elite fighters standing next to her. She sat on her throne and announced that beating Mikigami was now top priority. Alice refused immediately, saying she is not interested in trash, while Finn didn't care enough because of her mood swings. But Merle happily claimed dibs and was ready to smash Koji. She hit a JoJo pose and bragged about how her strength was unmatched, hinting she would never lose to someone with trash skill like copying. Back to Zulu, who was giving Koji a quick lecture on how the class system works. She pointed to Merle, whose magic maxes out her attack, defense, and agility stats. To put it simply, all of her skills belong to class 5 and they are maxed out. On top of that, she is an elite-level martial artist, and with her buff skill, her attributes will also get a temporary boost. Zulu then looks at Koji and points out that his copying skill degrades the buffs, so the skill he would copy is going to be a weaker knockoff version of the original one. She then looks at him intensely and asks if he got any plan. Koji thinks for a moment, but like a chill guy admits he doesn't have one. She starts panicking and reminds Koji that he promised to win his next matches. Our boy remained cool as a cucumber and assures her that he'll win. But in the meantime, he told her about the arrangements he wanted her to make for his fight. 4 days later, the hosts announced the match that would decide it all. Koji entered the arena to face one of the 4 heavenly kings, which made Zaid nervous. The crowd was electrifying and everyone was excited to see what strategy Koji would use this time. Odds were insane, 100-1 against Koji. Almost everyone had their money on Merle, because she was the logical choice. Back in the waiting room, Mary told Koji he is going to die today. Our boy wondered what's wrong with her. 3 days earlier she was acting cute, so what happened now? She reveals that Merle is a firm believer of the survival of the fittest, and she only sees strong people as her equal. Meanwhile, weaklings are not even considered human by her. Mary made sure that he understands one wrong move meant instant defeat against Merle. Koji teased her, saying he didn't know she wanted him to win that badly. She blushed instantly and denied it, but with a confident smirk across his face, he promised to celebrate his win with her body tonight. The announcer shouts the arrival of both competitor as the arena explodes with cheers. Merle, the queen of solo duels, a lightning-fast warrior with 20 wins and 0 losses against Mikigami Koji, a slave with the weakest skill known to mankind. The crowd wanted Koji turned into a collectible doll, and Merle seemed excited enough to make it happen. She was going to give him a beating in the arena and then turn him into her personal doll backstage. but Koji hits a JoJo pose and promises to destroy her so bad that she won't be able to stand anymore. With the declaration of victory from both sides, they gave each other the 1,000-yard death stare and got ready to throw hands. The moment the match opened, Merle activated all 3 of her buffs: attack, defense, and speed, looking like a Dragon Ball Z character powering up. Koji copied her skill immediately, pretending to totally understood what level 5 skill meant. He was confused by her dramatic pause, but she told him go ahead and strike first. Trying to prove he actually trained and didn't spend the week napping in secret hideouts, Koji took off with surprising speed, circling Merle so fast she momentarily lost track of him. Before she could finish her thought, Koji suddenly launched a punch straight at her face. The crowd gasped as if plot armor itself had malfunctioned. Even Merle froze from shock, realizing Koji had suddenly switched gears. She was surprised to see that Koji was able to hit her, and complimented him for using 2 different types of speeds for stabilizing himself. Once the shock wore off, Merle decided it was her turn and announced that she was going to hit him in the chest. She then launched herself forward with brute force and Koji braced for impact. But still, he got blasted into a metal barrier with enough force to question all his life choices. He gasped for air and the audience held their breath, while the host dramatically announced that Merle had used one of her techniques called the God Cannon. The crowd roared, hyping her up as if she'd already won. Meanwhile, Koji was lying on the ground and starting to doubt himself. Merle approached with the confidence of someone who knows she's winning, and calmly explained she'd let him hit her, only to see how strong he was. This was because she wanted to hit him with just enough force, so he would break in half. Realizing she'd been holding back made Koji feel great in the same way learning you're the weakest in the gym feels great. She then grabbed him by the neck with one hand, lifted him up like a misbehaving cat, and casually suggested she'd start by breaking his right shoulder. A sharp burst of pain followed and Koji screamed so loudly that even Merle had to pause, asking why it sounded like he broke his own tooth. She lectured him about how weaklings talk too much. Then she admitted to loving the process of twisting people's joints like bubble wrap. Before she could continue, Koji's survival instincts of a raccoon cornered in a kitchen kicked in, and he spat directly into her mouth. The host nearly lost her voice and the crowd erupted in laughter, chanting his name like he suddenly became a legend for the most disrespectful move of the year. Merle spat the taste out, and launched a kick that sent Koji rolling across the arena like a dropped potato. As she closed in, furious and overheating, she amplified herself again with all 3 buffs. But something felt off. She suddenly lost all of her strength. Koji powered up his punch and thanked her for the buffs before digging her in the stomach. The punch was so powerful that it sent Merle flying across the arena and she ended up against the magic boundary. The crowd was shocked, as they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Suddenly, Merle's body started heating up, specifically her uterus. As Merle was on her knees trying to catch her breath, Koji approached with a mischievous smirk and started rage-baiting her. He then reveals that his spit wasn't normal, it actually contained the special drug given to him a week ago. In a single slap, he struck her backside with a hard slap, and this left the entire arena as well as the crowd in shock. Koji mocked her for acting like a grown woman still stuck in childish habits. As Merle collapsed, ISEKAI'D was losing her mind. She asked the judges if drugs were allowed in the fight. They checked the rule and it wasn't officially listed as illegal, which meant ISEKAI'D couldn't do anything. She screamed in anger and started using her minion as a stress ball. Through all the chaos, Koji finally won the fight and simply rubbed his nose, waiting for his own delayed potion effect to finally kick in. Backstage, we see an old man taking Mary to a new room. The fact that they were moved to a level 2 room only meant Mikagami had won again. She then remembered his words of celebrating with her body as a prize and starting blushing with excitement. The door then opened and there he was, our Gunner protagonist standing next to his baby mama number 2. Tugging the rope, Koji pulled Merle closer to the bed and casually mentioned that he slipped her the potion during their match. Feeling humiliated, she powered up her level 5 buff and launched a punch at Koji, only for him to catch her hand mid-swing. He told her she was being ridiculous, and that whatever tiny boost her buff gave her was already fading due to the secret drug. Then he reminded her of the Coliseum tradition. The winner breeds the loser. Before she could even process her words, Koji started slapping her ass cheeks, and slowly but surely, she was starting to enjoy this pain. Mary watched the scene unfold and started to get embarrassed. But deep down she wished it was her instead of Merle. By this point, Merle loudly declared how wonderful everything felt, while Mary's face burned red from secondhand embarrassment. Then Merle screamed her love for Mikagami, and that was enough to push Mary over the edge. She grabbed a vial of elixir and chugged it in one go. She shouted for Koji and then leapt high into the air, saying she hasn't been congratulated by her yet. With that, they have their 3-way Super Smash session. A few days later, Zulu came to greet Koji, who looked pale and exhausted as he dragged himself out of the room. He asked her how long it has been, and Zulu cheerfully told him it had been 3 days, just like last time. She looked in the room and exclaimed that the girls really love Mikigami. He then tells Merle to come with him, and with a creepy smile, he vows to show the higher-ups what he is made of. Meanwhile, Zaid's voice echoed through her castle as she screamed at her guards for letting Mikigami escape. From the back, Alice quietly wondered if this meant Merle actually trusted that filthy boy now, and whether she'd truly let him clap her cheeks. She rose slowly from her chair and was ready to leave, when Zaid desperately called her name. Alice turned calmly and asked what she wanted. Zaid tried to provoke her and questioned if she can win without any information. She claimed that the previous 2 heavenly kings lost only because they had no plan, and she was sure that by this point Mikigami is out somewhere plotting his next move to take Alice down as well. Alice slammed her chair down, furious that Zaid had forgotten who she was talking to. At that exact moment, thunder cracked through the castle, lightning flashing bright enough to swallow the room. Priests sprinted through the corridors in a panic as they rushed into Zaid's chamber. They wanted to know what on earth was causing these rumblings. But the moment one of them entered, he froze. The ceiling above him wasn't a ceiling anymore. It was just a wide, empty void staring back at him. Floating in that open space was Alice, suspended midair like some kind of gothic angel of destruction, staring straight at the horrified man. She reminded Zaid that all of her past matches ended in 0.5 seconds, and claimed that her spatial exchange skill was unbeatable. No one in the room could even pretend otherwise. In that moment, Zaid forced a tight smile after seeing Alice's power and could only agree with her, because what she had just witnessed wasn't just power, it was dominance. The priests stood in silence, trying to process the fact that the ceiling had simply been removed from existence. Zaid's mind drifted back to Koji's last fight. He always chose opponents with similar gifts, weaving traps that forced him to grow. But that's not possible this time, because every single fighter gifted with spatial exchange skill were on her payroll. She admitted Alice outshined all of the heavenly kings, and the duel with Mikigami would end before he can even take a full breath. Furthermore, Koji won't be able to do his beloved experiment ever again, and watching him lose would be even sweeter. Under the moon's glow, Zaid laughed to herself, already tasting the victory she hadn't yet earned. Meanwhile, in the eastern slums of Citadel, everything felt strangely calm. Zulu couldn't help smiling as she imagined Zaid laughing her head off right now. Zulu stepped forward, and standing before them was a girl none of them expected, another spatial exchange specialist. Her name is Tia Clover, and she is a mercenary. Merle blinked in confusion, wondering how they'd even found Tia. Koji explained it was easy. They hired her before Merle's fight and got her out of town, only to return after their match was finished. Merle practically melted into a blush as she praised him, calling his cleverness exciting. Koji just gave a half smile and stated they only needed a strategy to beat Alice now. That's when Tia interrupted and gave him a reality check. She hated to say it, but beating a high-tier skill like spatial exchange with copying skill would be impossible. A chill ran through Koji's body and silence wrapped the group. Calling out Koji's full name, she ordered him to target her with spatial exchange. Zulu nearly panicked. Tia could have died if anything went wrong. But Tia stood firm, demanding Koji proceed. He hesitated at first, but then extended his hand, igniting the faint hum of spatial power. In a blink, the earth beneath Tia swapped places with wooden floor, and the piece of stone crashed to the ground, shattering into pieces. Tia softly asked Koji if the message had reached him. Spatial exchange didn't move bodies. It replaced space itself. Anything extending past the swapped edges would simply be sliced off. Tia explained this is the deadliest skill, and she could cut him in half from across the field. His copied version would reach half the distance of her due to his copying skill, meaning his range is severely limited. Koji's face drained of color. He stared at the cracked floor, feeling victory slip farther away with each second. Tia continued calmly, warning Alice's mastery was even worse. Alice could sweep the entire arena in a single motion, hitting every corner with perfect control, meaning if she wanted, Koji would be dead in an instant. She pointed her finger at Koji and told him it is impossible to dodge Alice's attack, meaning his chances of survival against her is 0%. Merle and Zulu exchanged horrified looks, while Koji stood in stunned silence. Some days later, Mary sat quietly in the level 2 room and wondered whether Alice would be the one to finally stop Koji. The thought made her chest tighten with a strange anxiety. Her eyes drifted to the shackles once clasped around her neck, now lying abandoned on the bed. But then she tidied the room and finally snapped the chains back around her neck, the cold metal resting against her skin like nothing had changed. The arena roared to life as the Coliseum filled every seat. The host apologized for a brief delay, then reveled in the rising excitement. Tonight, the final duel would unfold. Alice Cotton versus Mikigami Koji. The crowd exploded in cheers, urging Alice to finish him once and for all. Her eyes glimmered with curiosity as she wondered aloud if today would be the end of his winning streak. A cold wave washed through Koji's chest. This was madness. He had no plan, no hope, no backup. But he stepped forward anyway. High above, ISEKAI'D lounged like she was watching premium theater and looked so confident you'd think she'd already cashed in her victory bets. Suddenly, a man's voice called her out. She turned around and with a smirk on his face, the man pointed it was going to be a successful day. ISEKAI'D noted he was rarely seen in the Coliseum anymore, but he simply shrugged. After all, everyone was obsessed with that strange boy, Mikagami. It was as if he is one of the 4 heavenly kingdoms. He asked if she was nervous, but ISEKA'D answered by bursting into sudden laughter, which left the man confused and he stared at her like she had lost her mind. She waved it off, insisting it just sounded funny, though her expression suggested she knew something everyone else didn't. The host's voice boomed, presenting today's outrageous betting odds. 1.001 to 125, all in favor of Alice. Even after 2 shocking defeats earlier, everyone was convinced Alice's advantage tonight was overwhelming. The commentator reminded the crowd that Alice struck down her enemies in the blink of an eye, while Mikagami with his copying skill won't be able to easily keep up. ISEKAI'D smiled, insisting Alice's victory was guaranteed. Down in the arena, Alice stepped forward, declaring her hatred for all men. According to her, they were liars by default. And yes, that included Mikagami. But then her tone flipped entirely, and in a soft voice, she pointed at him, announcing he was destined to become a beloved little girl, whom she would keep close like a prized plushie. The host nearly choked laughing, calling it proof that Alice's feminist flame was still burning strong. Up in the stands, someone yelled, "Alice is the strongest." Another girl waved a bright sign rooting for her, revealing that Alice had a full fan club. Some men in the crowd grew tense, calling Alice a cocky brat, while another yelled at Mikagami not to dare lose. Alice responded instantly. With a flick of her hand, droplets of blood flew, splattering on Koji's face. The man's feet were chopped off in an instant, and his scream tore through the arena. The metallic scent of blood filled the air. With a horrifying expression on her face, she asked what did the man just say to her? The host panicked, ordering an immediate cleanup as workers scrambled to erase the mess. The entire audience sat frozen, unable to look away. ISEKAI'D burst into delighted laughter, declaring Alice's strength was overwhelming. The priestess laughed again, as she noticed Mikagami biting his lip with tension. Zulu asked Tia if Koji was going to be alright, but she assured Zulu that he was going to be just fine, since he is her student. She boldly declared that even if the odds were 50-50, Mikagami should be able to push through. Zulu shot her a confused look, still unsure how every girl in the arena ended up liking this boy. The host apologized for the delay, explaining the entire podium had been dismantled and rebuilt. Alice, as uninterested as ever, asked how much longer she had to wait. As the gong finally thundered, ISEKA'D's smile sharpened. With a cold gaze, Alice thrust her hand forward, as she commanded Koji to die. Her spatial swap tore the air open, slashing through space and striking him instantly. The announcer gasped. Mikagami was already drenched in blood, but Alice froze. He still stood almost unscathed, when he should have been neatly sliced in half. Koji had countered her spatial manipulation skill with his own. Her mind spun. How had he slipped away? A sharp crash followed as a small vessel shattered at her feet. She shielded her face from the wind, then sniffed. Something acrid, foul, unmistakable. Her knees buckled, and she fell to the ground, retching as the poison constricted her body. These were poisonous mushroom spores, and since she inhaled them, Alice won't be able to move her body anymore. Across the arena, confusion spread. Why wasn't Alice standing? Someone pointed toward the arena floor. Mikagami's left hand was lying close to Alice. She gasped in horror. Mikagami admitted it, exhausted, explaining how much effort it took to pull off that move. Pain burned through his veins as he advanced. Alice stared up at him, paralyzed with horror. She realized he had already severed his left arm and right leg. His cold resolve made her voice tremble as she whispered that he'd become a monster. He ignored her pleas and slammed his blade into the ground inches from her face. Alice laid rigid on the ground and foam gathering on her lips. The arena fell into stunned silence. The host's jaw dropped. Seeing her shocked, Mikagami gave her a thumbs up. Then the host announced to everyone that Alice had fainted and can't continue anymore. ISEKAI'D and Kelsey stared in disbelief. The stadium exploded into cheers. Zulu jumped with joy while Tia hid her smile behind her fist. Alice's fan club sat frozen, unable to comprehend her defeat. Some shouted insults, others demanded their money back. Kelsey laughed, amazed the boy managed to topple Alice. He patted Zaid's shoulder with fake sympathy, but his grin carried nothing but teasing mockery. Zaid said nothing. She slipped into the hallway and then, unable to hold it in, unleashed a blood-curdling scream. The fortress echoed with her rage as she demanded Mikigami's death. Back in the arena, Mikigami's vision blurred as he finally collapsed. Dragging a furious, trussed-up Alice behind him like an unwanted shopping cart, Koji keeps marching forward as she demands he stop, but he snaps back, telling her to shut it. Mikigami frowns, remembering how she whined endlessly in the waiting room, refused to drink the potion like some dramatic diva, and now she's causing trouble again. Meanwhile, in Alice's head, only a single thought was going on: how did my life turn into this? She still couldn't understand that she's now a servant to this pathetic, worthless boy she considers the weakest creature alive. Narrowing her eyes, she studies his face, and when he finally asks what she means, she calls him an eyesore. He exhales dramatically, mocking the insult was coming from someone who lost to the so-called weakest creature, and then proceeded to wet herself in the arena. She explodes, telling him to shut up, and swears she would never lose a fair duel. Only these stupid Coliseum rules beat her. Alice starts panicking as she imagines wandering into Koji's room and being used by a filthy man like him. But then she remembers Merle and Mary are also there, so she just has to convince them to attack Koji together. They can finish him and their problems would vanish. Just as Mikigami's footsteps echo into a room, he flings open the door and announces his return. Inside, he sees Mary and Merle in aprons kneeling like loyal pets, and Merle greets him with a warm smile. Mikigami tilts his head, confused. What are they doing? The girls wonder, don't you like this kind of thing? Behind him, Alice stares at the girls, wondering what the hell happened to these girls. Merle suddenly clings to Mikigami, gripping his hand and smiling nervously as she admits she's his precious slave. Alice is horrified, because these girls have already been tamed by Mikigami. Suddenly Mary bursts forward, bottle in hand, grabs Alice's face, and forces the drug down her throat. Mikigami yells her name, startled. Mary huffs that she hasn't even taken her potion yet, and complains about the torture of the previous 4 days. After drinking their potions, everyone was hot and bothered, and Koji started clapping them cheeks as the room echoed with their trembling voices and pleasureful cries. As usual, a few days later he comes out of his room exhausted and tired. Zulu cheerfully greets him and realizes he has 3 people by his side now. But then she gets right down to business and explains that the first 3 opponents could be beaten with strategy because they at least had some information about them. But the 4th one, Fin Catastrophe, is a total phantom. No background, no records, just danger wrapped in mystery. No one even knows her past, her style, her techniques, everything is a puzzle. Zulu insists that a single skill of hers can win a war, and that this mystery girl has 100 of them. Meanwhile, Fin strolls through a hallway with a sly smile, greeting the manager warmly. They go inside the store and Fin asks if there's any enchanted gear that's available. But then a bizarre laugh suddenly erupts. Fin turns around and spots a man holding a jeweled ring in his hand and murmurs about the gear looking really good. Curious, the man asks to try it, but the shopkeeper refuses instantly. The buyer complains loudly, saying he won't buy something unless he tries it before. The shopkeeper apologizes, thinking the situation might upset her, but she smiles and tells him she doesn't care about this sort of thing. Fin then looks around and lifts a strange object and asks the manager about the equipment. Suddenly a rude voice cuts in and the man eyes the equipment, saying it looks pretty good. Fin's cold stare pins the vendor, who trembles and begs her not to cause trouble. She turns away, declaring it's time to go home since she can't shop with a monkey in the store. The man yells at her, demanding to know who she thinks she is. The shopkeeper rushes to soothe him as she leaves with a quiet goodbye. Later, as she is walking in the city, Fin notices the same man from the store following her and asks if she can help him with something. He grins, saying he came to thank her for calling him a monkey. With a spark of madness, he hurls a ball of flame and thunder at her with the new equipment he bought from store. Fin dissolves the spell like it's cheap discount magic. The man is stunned as she calmly states she's figured out his technique. He uses ball lightning from his gear, a second-rank skill. Amazed, he asks how did she made his skills disappear. She smiles coldly as the scorched bodies of his followers fall around her. The man sobs on the ground as she picks up the ring from the ground, admiring the property of not losing its power even when repeatedly using it. Suddenly she cracks it between her fingers. She thanks him for performing her experiments free of charge, and offers 3 secrets as repayment. First, every elemental attack can be destroyed by striking it with a weaker version of itself. Second, she herself is basically a walking encyclopedia of combat. Fin Catastrophe. The man stammers, asking if she belongs to Zaid's 4 heavenly kings. She beams, saying she has mastered 108 abilities, 7 primal elements at her fingertips, and many more wonders. The man apologizes. He didn't realize who she was. Finn smiles as she reveals the third secret. Only experimenting with different skills interest her, which is why muscle-brained fools like him never had a chance. A skill ignites in her palm and with a mocking grin, she offers him death as a gift. The magic hits, and his scream rips through the night. At Zulu's hideout, Mikagami and Zulu sit at a creaking table discussing how even the most geniuses have only 5 gifts. Mikagami notes Mary has 2, Merle 3, Alice only 1. But Finn just claimed she has 108. Zulu point out that she goes beyond the laws of this world, which makes her a foe beyond reason. Mikagami's eyes widen in dread as he imagines disaster approaching. Zulu clutches her head and laughs shakily, admitting she knows nothing about her, no past, no age, nothing. All she has are those 108 skills. Zulu recalls that all of her victories came through a new trick. By now, only 8 of her abilities have been revealed so far. Koji stays silent as this is his most terrifying opponent he has faced yet. Before, he relied on logic and strategy, but now, he can't even describe what she is, let alone plan for her. Into the mic, the host unleashes full hypebeast energy, reminding the crowd that an entire week has flown by since that unforgettable showdown. Tonight is the grand finale everyone's been waiting for. With a proud ring to her voice, the girl announces it's Mikagami versus Catastrophe. Her words bounce off the stone walls, and the crowd detonates into cheers and screams. Zulu slipped into the stands, waiting to see her friend with quiet but buzzing anticipation. In the waiting hall, Mary calls for Mikagami, asking him to be careful. Meanwhile, Merle just flexes her confidence in him. Since he has beaten Alice too, she isn't worried about him anymore. She gives him a kiss as well, which leaves Mary flustered. Suddenly, Alice snaps his attention to her. Before he can process anything, she smacks him across the cheek. She hasn't lost her pride yet and demands the match start so she can witness his corpse on display. She ends it by calling him a trash bastard. As he walks towards the Coliseum, a booming voice bursts through the arena. The weakest gladiator, undefeated in all 3 battles, steps forward. Mikagami Koji. The roaring storm of cheers welcomes him to the stage. A ripple splits the crowd as the girl introduces Finn, last of the 4 heavenly kings and keeper of the Library of Wisdom. 8 wins, 0 losses. Her name shakes the arena like a thunderclap. Zulu clamps her hands over her ears, telling the people around her to shut up. But then Merle spots her and shouts her name in excitement. Zula greets her, surprised she came. Then Merle suddenly snatches the collar of the man nearby and launches him into the air, all this while flashing a mischievous smile toward Zulu like she's stirring chaos for fun. A hush rolls over the audience as they notice Merle. Why is she at the duel? People get jealous of Koji because he was able to smash her, but Merle ignores them all, her heart's fixed on Mikagami's safety. A flag waves high with Koji's face printed proudly. From a high row, someone mocks his supporters, calling them idiots. They've bet everything on him. Another friend urges the man to check the forecast, and his eyebrows shoot up at the odds. Koji has 95 times the return on his name. Zed watches the arena with a smug grin, as the man thinks something is fishy going on with the odds. With a sharp smile, she declares tonight will be the end for him. Finn points out how annoying people can be when they start getting loud. Admitting she's not interested in this match, she just wants to see how he is going to fight. Confidence sparks in Mikagami's eyes as he agrees. The host erupts in excitement, calling out his unwavering resolve. But in return, Mikagami says he has a question for her. How did you acquire so many skills? Finn laughs, delighted by the question. With a gentle smile, she shrugs and says, I just worked really hard. Silence. Everyone just stops. Mikagami stares at her with intense expression. The crowd erupts again, insisting hard work alone can't master 100 skills. A man shouts Finn is a genius, while another warns Mikagami she's messing with him. Mikagami nods and thanks her for the answer, although he believes she is lying to his face. Finn's smile sharpens as she tells him not to bore her. She summons 2 glowing orbs, fire and lightning, and hurls them at him. Mikagami counters her attacks with water ball and wind ball skill. The announcer loses her voice from amazement. With a smirk across her face, she lets Koji know that he has cleared level 1. But then she attacks him with 3 different skills at the same time, and gives him a creepy smile. The announcer's eyes widen as the stage holds far more attacks than she imagined. Finn's attacks are being countered by Mikagami's counter attributes. Curiosity sparks in Finn's mind. She notices something is wrong. Up until now, she has never used an earth orb or a light orb before, which only means one thing. He's copying her skills in real time as they are fighting. Lost in thought, she almost laughs it off. She roars that she used those moves in the downtown the other day, and wondered he must have been nearby without her noticing. She lunges with blinding speed. Mikagami blocks again, but then the host gasps at their clash. Finn weaves lightning and fire together into a shining, terrifying fusion spell. Mikigami freezes, horrified. The host trembles, asking if this is a joke. Finn's eyes were sparkling with excitement as she calmly explains this was a fusion spell, two elements merged into one attack, something she herself has never managed to achieve before. With a worried expression, he can't help but think, yeah, I kinda knew this insanity was coming. 4 days earlier at Zulu's dim hideout, Merle and Mikigami hunched over the small table when Zulu asked him about his next move. Since Mikigami has no idea what kind of skill Finn would pull out, he plans to approach this match like a street fight. Confusion washed over both girls' face as they didn't know what a street fight meant. He explains that if he just keeps copying the skills she will use during their match, he'll be able to understand what skills she's got. To Koji, fighting her directly seemed like the most efficient route. At first, Zulu was hesitant by this approach, but then agrees with his decision, which leaves Merle dumbfounded. In the arena, Finn hurled a blazing lightning fireball at Mikigami, slicing the air with crackling heat. He stayed calm and weaved a water and wind ball, hoping it would save him from her next insane combo. Catastrophe watched with wide-eyed awe as their skills clashed like colliding storms. A blinding flash erupted, followed by a massive explosion in the arena. As the smoke drifted away, the host gasped. Mikigami had countered fusion technique with one of his own. The crowd erupted in cheers as they couldn't believe he created a combination skill. A spark of certainty lit Mikigami's gaze as both competitors locked eyes with each other. Mikigami quietly added that Finn was just like him. Similar to her, he was also someone who rarely tasted defeat. She gave Koji a creepy smile, which then turned into a maniacal laughter. Finn learns new skills by diving headfirst into every class, turning the world into her playground exactly like a gamer. Finn was thrilled by the fight and told Koji he was really amazing. She was having lots of fun and told him to show her more of his tricks. Mikigami smiled silently, realizing this was batshit crazy. While smiling, he realized fighting someone who also thinks like a gamer was way too much fun. Finn raised her hand in the air and aimed another devastating attack towards Koji. But Mikigami stayed firm and jumped high in the air, dodging her fiercest blow while wishing to fight on and on. Zulu clicked her tongue as she became more annoyed. She wondered if he forgot about his plan, urging him that time wasn't on his side. Finn exhaled, calm and effortless, while Mikigami was out of breath after dodging series of heavy attacks. She points out that Koji was good at canceling her skills, but where exactly does he go from that? Both of them activate their skills at the exact same speed, making them eerily alike while they fought. But sadly, that's where the similarities end, because his inferior copying skill is only useful for countering her attributes. With a mean smirk across her face, she points out Koji's mind and nerves are completely worn out. He can't continue for much longer, so what's his next move going to be? Koji stares her down with a confident look and admits he doesn't know. That's when she starts laughing and warns him that his time was running out. Finn then deploys her smokescreen skill, swallowing the arena in gray fog. Mikigami staggers, clutching his face and trying to understand what she is trying to do next. The host panics, announcing the arena was now drowned in smoke. The crowd reacts instantly, calling this way of fighting boring. Mikigami wonders why she is using smokescreen at this point of the match. He tries to use the whirlwind skill to clear the arena, but something's wrong. His hand starts trembling and he wonders why can't he use his copying skill anymore. Seeing this, Zaid and Finn smile as this will finally be the end of Mikigami Koji. Stripped of every last shred of his copying ability, Koji starts panicking as he feels helpless for the first time. Finn teleports behind him like a Dragon Ball Z character using instant transmission and hits Koji into his back. Pain detonates through him and he hits the arena floor with all the dignity of a falling potato. The sharp smack echoes around the Coliseum as Finn grinds her heel into his hand, savoring every twitch of pain. She reveals that Koji's copying skill can no longer be used against her, and this makes Mikigami's head jerk up with fear. The library of skills lifts her wrist, revealing a strange watch which was used for blocking opponent's skill. Mikigami couldn't believe it because she was clearly breaking Coliseum's rule by bringing in a prohibited item. But with a wicked grin, Finn reveals that the head of Chief Operations, Desmos, told her to finish Mikigami Koji. She apologizes to him because this is nothing more than a contract assassination. Mikigami's hand starts trembling as he realizes this fight was rigged from the start. He was forced to lose this battle, which makes it nothing more than a slaughter. Leaning in closer, Finn asks him to pick a skill he prefers dying by as she grinds her heel on Koji's hand. She wants to make sure that he feels as miserable as possible because this would make ISEKAI'D really happy. Meanwhile, the priestess watches her gladiator with amusement as she was finally going to get rid of this trash slave Mikagami. With an evil smile, Finn remarks it's much more fun to torment your opponents who can't do anything at all. Rage coils in Mikagami like a storm and he swears to defeat her while drowning her in the biggest humiliation possible. Then suddenly, the skill blocking gear breaks in half, leaving Finn utterly confused. She stares at the pieces, stunned beyond words while Koji slowly pushes himself up and hits her with the four-fist punch right in the face. The sound explodes across the arena while sending Finn on the back foot. She grinds her teeth to stifle the pain and wonders how he managed to land that punch on her. Koji's burning stare meets hers. From the stands, the announcer shouts with pure joy that the fog has cleared. She spots blood streaking from Finn's face and Mikagami standing in four-fist stance. He clutches his hand while blood drips from where his pinky finger used to be. Finn's eyes widen as she analyzes the situation she was in few moments ago. The pieces finally click together and no matter how you look at it, this was Alice's spatial swap skill, which meant she was here in the arena. Koji points his finger at her and promises to defeat her with one of her own skill, which are going to be degraded by his very own trash copying skill. She taunts him by asking if he really believes he can beat her in a battle of skills, establishing her supremacy. With a determined look in his eyes, he exclaims that defeat isn't something he allows himself to achieve. He then taunts her and asks if she truly believes that her trash skills are enough to defeat him. She starts going insane and with a scary expression across her face, Finn dares Koji to come and try defeating her. She laughs at the idea of Koji dominating her in a match with one of her own skills, but Mikagami tells her that blind talent wasted in chaos risks a devastating loss. This annoys Finn even more and she tells Koji to go fuck himself while sending a lightning-fast strike at the man. He raises his injured hand and cancels the incoming attack with relative ease. But then he raises his other hand, focusing all of his attention in this one singular attack. Blood starts running from his nose while he prompts himself to not move. Even 1 millimeter would mess this attack. The air tightens around him as he vows to finish her this time. He lifts his arm and weaves 3 techniques into one using combination skill. With everything he has left, he hurls the fusion sphere, fire, light, and thunder, straight at Finn. It leaves a scorching trail on the ground before hitting her. Finn stands there frozen, realizing he used her own combination skill against her. She wonders how he was able to generate this attack while keeping it in the air for this long. Finn contemplates to dodge this attack, but then changes her mind and decides to block it. But due to analysis paralysis, she forgets that blocking a combination of skills is nearly impossible. Before she realizes it, a crackling burst of thunder swallows her and light pours from her eyes and mouth. The scent of burnt meat scorches the air. Finn's strength vanishes and she collapses to her knees. With shaking voice, the host shrieks her disbelief. Merle and Zulu freeze. This crowd is in disbelief and even ISEKAI'D's jaw drops. Mikagami sinks to the ground, palms flat, sighing long and hard as relief washes over him. The announcer declares his triple-element fusion had defeated Finn and all ripples across the stadium. Zulu stands speechless while Merle burns red. ISEKAI'D couldn't believe what her eyes were seeing. How was this even possible? She stares at Finn, her gladiator collapsed on the arena floor. She clutches her head and screams, while demanding an explanation that no one can give. High above, a shadowy figure watches quietly from the upper stands. It was a woman who grins, murmuring that Mikagami Koji is one amusing kid. Koji wipes the blood from his nose, as he stands there while soaking in all the praise from the arena. Hoofbeats snapped through the corridor as ISEKAI'D stormed ahead. Grinding her teeth, she vowed to never forgive Mikagami Koji. Today was supposed to be his last day as Finn had even gotten administration's permission to bring in forbidden gear into the arena, and somehow she still lost. Blinded with rage, she slammed her fist into the nearby wall. Feeling humiliated, she started coping by thinking Koji was using some kind of trick for his victories. ISEKAI'D was mad at herself for not capturing him on the spot, so she could expose him and execute him right then and there. Determined to confront him before he got away, she rounded a corner when her eyes were left wide open by surprise. A massive concrete cube sat in the hall and that caught her off guard. She wondered how did a chunk of land just appeared out of nowhere. When ISEKAI'D reached forward to touch it, the cube suddenly vanished and the person standing in front left her shocked. It was Alice Cotton appearing out of thin air. She noticed ISEKAI'D standing there and asked what she was doing here, since this place was only meant for servants to enter. Putting the pieces together, ISEKAI'D was left shocked by the conclusion. During the entire match, Alice had been hiding beneath the arena, deliberately placing herself directly under Mikagami so he could copy her spatial exchange skill at the right moment. This was the only reason to why Mikagami Koji was able to break the skill blocking gear in half. The priestess asked her why a misandrist like her was helping a despicable man like him. Instead of answering the question, Alice just looked away while her cheeks were blushing. In that moment, ISEKAI'D realized that even a feminist like Alice had been tamed by Koji. She shouted, "This was against the rules, and if they told the management about it, Koji will definitely be punished for his actions." But Alice smiled and asked if she hadn't gone through the Coliseum rule book. Because clearly, slaves were allowed to enter the underground using tunnels that were present beneath the arena. This made ISEKAI'D even more angry, and she started grinding her teeth while thinking such a rule wasn't supposed to be in the manual. Despite his bizarre tactics, Koji hadn't broken a single rule as he was able to identify and exploit the loopholes in the Coliseum rule system. Alice stared down the priestess and reminded her that only slaves were allowed here. She warned ISEKAI'D to leave before she gets arrested by the guards for trespassing. Furious, she realized that her former heavenly king had fully switched sides and was supporting her new master. But before she left, Alice taunted her and told the priestess that if she wanted to become one of Mikagami's slave, she could guide her to his room. The rage bait worked perfectly and ISEKAI'D lost her cool, shouting she would kill Koji. Alice simply stood there as she heard ISEKAI'D warning her about the betrayal for siding with Mikagami. She vowed to kill him. At this point, I just want to see nothing more than Mikagami glazing ISEKA'D's big fat buns. As she got deep into the tunnels, she heard a familiar voice coming ahead of her. She peeked around the corner and sees Finn getting her ass dragged by Koji. With blushing cheeks and tears flowing through her eyes, she clings to Mikagami, begging for his forgiveness. Alice gets shocked as it was her first time seeing Finn catastrophe in this state. With a proud smirk across his face, Koji tells her to walk properly, which makes Finn tremble. He tells her that Coliseum rules are absolute and there's nothing she can do about it, but Finn whines like a child and refuses to comply. While dragging her towards his new room, he wonders why Finn is acting so childish. The other three also resisted when it was their time, but she seems to have a complete shift in her personality. Suddenly, Finn requests him to listen to her, just this one time. With tears in her eyes and hesitation in her voice, she says, "I'm actually a guy." Mikagami's mind went blank after learning this information, leaving him and Alice with a surprised Pikachu face. In his level 4 room, Mikagami sighs after listening to her story and once again asks her, "Are you really a man?" Mary pierces Finn with a sharp stare while Alice clicks her tongue, looking deeply unimpressed. Finn confirms her statement, which leads Koji to the logical question, why is she going to the Coliseum? Through trembling breaths, Finn explained everything. Turns out she is a relative of the head priestess ISEKAI'D, and she never wanted to work at all. Instead, she just wanted to stay at home and enjoy experimenting with different skills. But unfortunately, ISEKAI'D discovered her otaku habits and started blackmailing him. She forced him into the arena disguised as a girl and one of her heavenly kings, while promising to stay quiet about his hobbies in front of his parents. She even made him act arrogant so she wouldn't get looked down upon by other people. Hearing the explanation, Alice was disgusted by Finn and finally snapped, "How dare a man pretend to be one of us?" Mikagami watched in amazement. How could someone be both a domineering fighter and a closet nerd at the same time? But then Merle chimes in and asks Finn, "Would you get killed if ISEKA'D learns you told Mikagami everything?" Finn agreed and begged them not to expose her. With sparkle in her eyes, Mary suggests they can use this information and dethrone ISEKA'D from her head priestess position. The technique of transforming a person into the opposite gender is forbidden outside the arena, and since ISEKA'D has been doing this for a while now, her downfall was guaranteed. Koji thinks this is some solid proof against ISEKA'D, but he is not going to use it right now. He knows that she can use her power and influence to cover up these events. For now, he is going to wait for the best possible opportunity to reveal this information. He clenches his fist, as he thinks this is his trump card. Merle blushes as her gaze met Mikagami's, and Mary admits to herself that Koji's evil look is very cute. Finn asks him if she's going to be excused from the group smash session because of the information she provided. But Mikagami demands more, and asks her to give him some tips on how to acquire more skills. But before she could answer, Merle grabbed her shoulders while Mary uncorked a secret drug bottle in her hand and poured mysterious liquid into Finn's mouth. Suddenly, a warmth flooded within her and she dives onto the bed. Mary reminds her that she was still one of the 4 heavenly kings, and Alice points out that it would be unfair if there was only one person among them who hadn't gotten their buns glazed by Koji. Finn panics and reminds Mikagami that they are both men, but he reminds her that right now, she has 2 calcium channels on the front and a nice bakery on the back, so there's no problem at all. Heat filled the room as Mikigami starts playing Super Smash Bros. With Finn and she slowly loses herself to the pleasure. Later, Zulu greeted Mikigami with a cheerful smile, but then after looking at him, she asked if he's still alive. She then hands him a basket, which contains some meat and the secret drug. After that, she walks into his room and reminds him that the level 4 room come with their separate reception and urges him to meet her there so they can talk privately. She also informs him that the Coliseum management has announced there's going to be no match for him this coming week. The three girls hear this and jump Mikigami, making him play Super Smash Bros. With them as well. After the games are over, it is revealed that Zulu had a meeting with the head of Coliseum and they have been quietly making their moves. In the next room, Finn collapsed as she couldn't handle another round. 3 weeks earlier, just after his match with Mary, Koji sat in a dimly lit room with Zulu as he asked her a crucial question. "Who is my owner?" Zulu smiled after pointing out he was talker but decided to spill the beans. All free slaves like him and the other are owned by the same person. In the present time, a maid takes him to Coliseum's upper floor hall and Zulu's words about ISEKAI'D being one of the major investors in the Coliseum go through his mind. She further emphasizes that the head priestess may have an influence on the arena, but in the end, she is not from the management. They are then led to a huge door and a maid opens it for Koji, prompting him to enter the room of former strongest gladiator. A second later, someone tells Mikigami that she is glad to see him here. Using a sharp and sarcastic tone, the person welcomes the weakest gladiator. Mikigami is left terrified as he sees a giant demon-looking mommy standing in front of him. She introduces herself as Desmos Salamandes, the head of the Coliseum belonging to the giant race. Putting her big-ass bakery on the throne, she prompts him to take a seat. When the attendant gently offered him a drink, he accepted with shaky hands. Koji thinks to himself, "I never thought I would be directly called by my owner." She praises him and points out that every single one of his fights against ISEKAI'D's heavenly kings was a banger, especially the fight against Finn Catastrophe. But she is more interested in knowing what happened between them when they were inside the smoke barrier. Sensing this is a trap and the head of Coliseum is testing him, Koji refuses to speak the truth. With his heart beating like a drum, he knows that his life depends on the answer. He reminds himself that he has shown the ability of overcoming any type of cheating, and since he is a star in the Coliseum now, bringing him to the management side would be more beneficial for them rather than crushing him. His edgy side of the brain wants him to interfere with their plans and laugh in their faces. But the logical side wants him to calm down and play the long game. He's aware that going against Desmos won't bring him any favors, so he takes a deep breath and calms himself down. The head of the Coliseum looks at Koji and asks if something is wrong. But our boy puts the cup down and straight up tells her, "I don't give a damn bitch." Desmos stops for a moment as she wasn't expecting this type of response from him. For a moment she thought Koji was sharp-witted, but it turns out he is just an idiot. With a glaring look, Mikigami asks, "So what about it?" With a commanding voice, she tells Koji to get down on his knees then and there, then she wants him to bow down in front for her. And if that wasn't enough, she tells him to lick her punani while he is kneeling down and beg for his life. He was told to become her slave and live, or oppose and die right here in this very moment. But like a real Chad, Koji stood on business and told her he won't do none of that. This angered Desmos even more and she summoned her massive sword and broke the table in front of her, leaving Mikigami worried for his precious life. She then pointed her sword at him and commanded him to honor her words. But our boy remained calm as a cucumber and told Desmos he needs to prepare for his upcoming bout. Back to the flashback, Koji confirms if he needs permission from Desmos in order to retire from the Coliseum. She tells him the bitter truth that his request will most likely be denied. Because think about it, after beating ISEKAI'D's 4 heavenly kings, the management would be stupid to let go of their gold mine. Koji smiles and says that's very convenient timing because he doesn't want to leave the Coliseum just yet. Zulu is confused and questions if he doesn't want to be free. He does want out from the Coliseum's slavery system, but the moment he stopped being a slave, he'll be killed by ISEKAI'D. Also, he knows that the Coliseum is protecting him like an invisible shield. Because if he got his freedom, the moment he steps out in the free world, he'll be beaten to death by thugs in the streets. This leads Zulu to the million-dollar question: when is he planning to leave the Coliseum? He reveals that until Desmos is in charge of the Coliseum management, he will stay here, but his ultimate goal is to make Desmos his slave as well. My boy is coming for everyone's ass. Desmos laughs at Koji's face, surprised by his boldness. Mikigami was left startled and wonders what is going on. She sits on her throne and tells him that she isn't aware of the things that drive him to say things, but she likes his confidence, even though he is about to bawl his eyes out. Koji wonders if he said the quiet part out loud. Standing tall above him, Desmos declared she won't free him from his slavery and he is going to fight until his last breath. She then grabs his chin and tells him to keep fighting in this hellhole and die. While walking away, she advises him to take care of his slaves and ensure their bodies don't become weak. The maid shows him the way out of the room, but before Koji leaves, he aura farms for the last time and tells Desmos to prepare him an opponent against whom he can at least have fun with his slaves. The door closes behind him and Desmos thinks he would be a great clown rather than a gladiator. After 1 month, the Coliseum host roared above the crowd as she announced Mikagami's return. The crowd was so loud, leading her to doubt if they could hear her announcement. She introduced the weakest gladiator, Mikagami Koji, and the crowd erupts in cheers. Here it is revealed that he came with one of his slaves, because today it's going to be tag team match. For this particular battle, Mikagami had chosen Mary Landrot to be his partner. The crowd erupts with laughter as the men sitting in the arena start joking about Mary's outfit. Mikagami shrugged hard as this outfit wasn't his idea, but Mary clicked her tongue and told him they were idiots for thinking like they were toddlers. A soft blush warmed her cheeks as she hid her face behind her hand. The announcer's voice cut across the arena while introducing the fighters. But the question is, who is going to be the opponent of this terrifying duo now? The crowd starts to speculate and wonder who would dare to face this terrific pair. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena as she announces the first appearance of the other team in the Coliseum. The next challengers were from a distant eastern island, legendary ninja Suzu, and the legendary samurai, Musashi. Shocked from the announcement, the crowd goes silent. Even Zulu and Merle get confused and wonder, a samurai and a ninja, in a Coliseum ruled by magic? Musashi was surprised to see the number of people in the arena and wonders if every single one of them is a spectator. He thinks there's an excess of samurai back at their island and gets the idea to replicate this format when they return. The crowd gets furious and start insulting them. Koji wonders why the crowd is so hostile towards their challengers. Mary explains that the name Musashi and Suzu are from the text named The 100 Memoirs, which is a series about famous warriors from the past. Surprised, Koji asks if it meant the names of their opponents were fake, leading Mary to answer that's probably right. It has been told that the samurai and ninjas live far on an eastern island, but their tales are so foggy that everyone thought their existence was practically a folklore. Koji looks at Desmos sitting in the rafters and wonders what is her plan. But suddenly one of the spectators gets angry and tells the samurai stop with that bullshit. The crowd riles behind that man and starts bad-mouthing the management while throwing their food. Feeling disrespected by the crowd, Musashi tells Suzu that he is going to mess with Koji for a bit. He then faces the crowd and asks if they are doubting whether he is a real samurai or not. But in the blink of an eye, he lunges towards Koji and attacks with his sword, but luckily Mary blocks his attack just in time. Mikagami barely managed to survive, and if it wasn't for Mary, he would have been dead. Musashi backs off and gives off a very excited smile. The crowd is left shocked as he praises Mary for defending the attack. Musashi asks Mary if she has any experience on the battlefield. He then takes a look at Koji's surprised face and tells him that he is just noticing people's faces without reading their movements. With a proud grin across his face, he calls Mikagami a useless master in front of the entire arena. Koji notices that his movements were very natural and there wasn't even a single ounce of nervousness he could notice. Musashi was too fast for Koji to get a good read on him, and killing was like a second nature to these types of warriors, just like Desmos intended. He then looked at Musashi and remembered her words, "Keep fighting in this hell until the day you die." After witnessing Musashi, Zulu realizes that his movements are exactly like they were described in the 100 Memoirs. Furthermore, even the crowd starts to believe that he is a real samurai. An old man sees this interaction and starts shivering. This was the man who guided Musashi into the waiting room, where he told the old man that he really was a samurai and he got bored after his country got united. So he fled to this country and registered to fight in Coliseum under a fake name. The old man thought it was his golden ticket to get back at Koji, because he had lost a bet last time. He runs towards the odd makers and pities Mikagami for being on the wrong team. Here, the host announces a special rule for the tag team matches. If a team loses the match, the losing team's slave would be transferred to the other team. Unaware of the new rules, Mary looks at Koji with a worried look. She then clings to her master's arm as she doesn't want to get separated from him. Every degenerate in the arena starts to envy Koji because they think Mary is flirting with him. Musashi looks at her and announces that he is going to chop her head off. He tells Suzu to take care of Koji, which makes him think they are not even counting him as an opponent. With a roaring announcement from the host, the match begins with a bang. Mary walks towards Koji and smacks him on the cheek, forcing him to come out of his trance-like state. Everyone in the arena is shocked and they wonder if Mary and Mikagami are having a fallout before the match. But then they power up and charge their Purgatory Flame skill. Musashi notices this and points out that he heard about Koji's copying skill and thought it could only be used against an opponent. But it looks like he can bypass this condition and can use his teammate's skill as well. Ardu moves forward using the backstep evasion skill and starts circling the opponents. This gets the samurai excited and he dashes forward in an instant. His sword clashes against Mary's as he activates his skill. She notices he is faster than before and his skill isn't losing to her attack combo. Musashi praises Mary for defending this attack because he wasn't expecting it. With an ominous aura around him, he gets serious and decides to see how well she can hold up if he goes even faster. Suzu notices Mary as well and starts breaking down her skills in real time. Mikagami extends his hand like a JoJo character and whispers to Suzu, "You are carelessly looking away from your opponent." He throws a purgatory flame at her, but to his shock, she just stands there knowing it won't do anything. The flames dissolve into mist before they even touch her. Realizing Suzu's equipment has fire nullification properties, he decides to focus on Plan B. But before he does, suddenly there are two ninjas standing in front of him. Turns out Suzu's skill is cloning, which meant she can multiply as much as she wants. The crowd is surprised to see this ability as it was also described in the 100 memoir and none of them expected to see it in real life. Realizing he messed up his opportunity, he clenches his teeth as it would be tricky to find out who is the real Suzu among these clones. In a storm of fire, she stomps on the ground and using the environment as a distraction takes off at an angle. Koji analyzes Suzu's clones in real time and then spots her with the fire nullification equipment, meaning the real Suzu is extinguishing flames all over the arena. The crowd was loving all the chaos the match brought, but in a split second, Koji felt a sharp pain in his chest. While he was distracted by Suzu's clones, she caught him lacking and launched a knife straight to his heart. The host panicked and wondered if it was the end for the Mikagami. Shocked, the arena started chattering and wondered if the match was going to be over. Mary gasped and shouted his name as her master was struck straight in the heart. But then Suzu noticed something. To her surprise, Mikagami stood unharmed because the person she just attacked was a clone. The arena cheered when they saw Koji using a new skill and realized he was just using his clone to block Suzu's attack. Noticing that Mikagami can use her cloning skill without even practicing, she decided to lock in and dashed forward, claiming this was the beginning of their clone battle. She vowed to end this battle if he used the clone skill, but unbeknownst to her, Koji was already cooking something. Out of nowhere, he made a clone and fired his purgatory flames at her. This caught her off guard and she stopped. Using the backstep evasion, Koji dashed back and immediately started replacing the flames across the entire arena along his clone. Suzu was amazed to see how he was able to perfectly sync his movements with the clones, without even making eye contact. She dashed forward and calmed herself down while theorizing that he is moving at such high speed because he wants to keep his real body hidden. But she was confident in her sharp gaze, so she analyzed the clones and then threw another knife at Koji. Unfortunately for her, the target was one of Koji's clones, giving him the opportunity to dodge perfectly. This baffled Suzu. He used his clone to shield himself? Frustrated, she wondered how he was able to use the cloning skill so effortlessly. Usually when someone uses the cloning ability for the very first time, she is able to identify the clones, but she can't identify Koji's clones at all. Despite having the same body and mind, the clone has a complete sense of its own. One needs to talk to the clones in order to get them to recognize themselves as the clones. If not, they will move reluctantly. The main purpose of using clones is to protect the original body, but the fear of death in clones is same as the original body. She launched another attack at Koji, but his clone protected him with effortless defense. Stunned, she asked how he was able to do it again and again. Meanwhile, Koji's clone can't believe that he became a co-op player with extra lives. Bro seems to be having a midlife crisis, mid-battle. Turns out the clone immediately knew he was an extra because his point of view was different from the main body. Bro also points out that if he was the original body, he wouldn't hesitate one bit and would do the same thing. He then recalls his gaming experience and says dying in death games is completely natural. His gamer instincts kick in and the clones raise their hands beside him, thanking their favorite gaming studio, From Software. Zulu and Merle look confused because he says it often, but they still have no idea what it means. Suzu charged forward with her clone, determined that she will nullify all the flames he throws at her. But this will turn their battle into a cat and mouse game, leaving no clear winner. Crossing her blades, she rethinks her approach and wonders if she should just take a direct approach. All of Koji's clone get alert and he plans to take her out this time. But Suzu was lightning fast and approached the clones in the blink of an eye. She was about to eliminate one of the clones, but just before his demise, he uttered the words, "Purgatory Flames." Instantly, the clones exploded into flames right in front of Suzu. Since she was also in their range, her clothes got on fire as well. The host couldn't understand the situation and wondered if Koji had burned himself along with Suzu. The crowd watched in disbelief as they witnessed Koji clones and Suzu on fire in front of their eyes. But then we see Suzu standing in a distance, which meant it was one of her clones who was caught in that explosion. After the smoke cleared, Koji was still holding his despite getting injured badly. Merle gets worried for him, but Zulu hold him down, knowing he is not about to go down that easily. As Suzu approached him, he confirmed his suspicion about the clone because clearly, the original one is standing in front of him. Wobbling forward, he told her that he just wanted to confirm whether the clones can also use the original body's gear properties. But since that isn't the case and only the real Suzu has fire nullification gear, now he can tell which one is a clone. She smirks under her mask and asks if that's all he wanted to know. This upsets Koji and he looks confused. With no hesitation, she straight asks if he is a dumb bastard. Suzu then goes on to explain that the attacks of a clone differ from the main body, but now that he knows about it, what is he going to do about it? She then humiliates him and says if the previous clone was really her, he would have been dead by now. But before she could go on and on about herself, Koji interrupts her and asks if she is stupid. He then implements his master plan and starts rage baits her, saying she is alive only because she chickened out. He mocks her further, asking if the legendary ninja is scared to approach a slave with low-tier copying skill. He then calls her a stupid servant and says I feel bad for Musashi because he has such a coward as a slave. The crowd starting cheering for our boy because they know rage baiting is also part of his comeback plan. They are amazed by his confidence and join him as well. Since he has placed his trap, he now has Suzu exactly where he wanted her. But then his focus suddenly shifts at Mary, who is covered in wounds from battling Musashi all this time. In a flashback, we see Mikigami gathering all his slaves as he announces that it's time for them to undergo special training. Their next fight will most likely be fought as a team, which means they have to come up with some new tactics. They weren't thrilled about the idea of being trained by someone who looks like he would lose to Dora Handle in an arm wrestling match. The girls admit that they lost to him, but a scrawny guy like him had no right to train them. However, Mary offers to give sword training while Merle gets excited about teaching him martial arts. Mikigami sighs and clears things up, saying he is not interested in learning swordsmanship or martial arts. With the enthusiasm of Gunnar, who found his favorite fapping material, Koji announces that he is going to train them as gamers, which confuses them even more. He then takes them to Zulu's hideout in the eastern wilds, where the training arc begins. He summons a small purgatory flame and steps back using the back evasion skill sparks with precise timing, calling the combo version 1. Then he backflips midair while using a purgatory flame at the same time, leaving the girls amazed. Combo version 2, he says casually while Finn asks how he was able to use backstep evasion so quickly. Mary is amazed by his combo but then quickly realizes how the flame and movement were connected with each other. Koji tells them it's easier to understand if they see it from the side, so Finn quickly follows his instructions. First, he generates a small flame from his hand while keeping it away from the body and then steps back while firing it at the same time. Alice and Merle are left stunned when they see Koji canceling his attack while simultaneously evading back in such quick succession. He then demonstrates a bunch of other combos as well, which leaves the girls stunned. The training montage then transitions into real combat, where Mary was using Purgatory Flame and Backstep Combo version 2 against Musashi. Their swords clash with each other and she successfully manages to counter Musashi's attack. But the fight is far from over. She pants from the high-octane battle and points out that she blacked out for a moment due to sheer exhaustion. Although she managed to counter his attack, Musashi was able to inflict some damage and left her arm covered in blood. Her constant defense frustrates him as she is very persistent with her combos. Watching her from a distance, Koji was amazed at how Mary was able to use his combo version 2 in quick successions. Even then, Musashi was able to overpower her with just a single skill, proving he is nightmare to deal with. He then waits for a moment, which makes Mary think he is waiting for something. But then he scoffs and says this fight is boring. He then dashes forward and aims to take out Koji. Mary steps forwards ready to use combo version 2, but Musashi points out that she can't defend his attack and he wants to end this boring-ass fight as soon as possible. But right then, Mary changes her mind and decides to use combo version 3 and dashes forward as well. Their swords clash with each other and Musashi instantly notices that Mary's sword weighs a lot more than it did just a few moments ago. They trade blows with each other as if they are in a choreographed movie scene, until Mary strikes one final time with heavy blow which Musashi blocks. But even then he goes flying across the arena and hits the magic boundary. For a moment, the arena falls silent. White smoky flames swirl around Mary as she stands there panting for her life. The announcer also notices the smoke around her and gets confused because she has no idea what's going on right now. Even Suzu is shocked to see Musashi in such defeated state. With rage in her eyes, Mary looks at her opponent and warns him to not put his hands on Koji. But the fight isn't over. Musashi rises again after a few coughs. "So you were hiding something like that?" he says with a crazy look on his face. He was impressed by Mary and comments this has been a true battle. But then with an unhinged expression, he declares that their battle will end here. This makes Mary shiver and calls him a monster. Even Koji was shocked after he saw Musashi tanking Mary's attack. Zulu and Merle look discouraged and realize this man isn't normal. Not only did he survive Mary's combo version 3, he is still standing and going strong. Zulu starts getting worried because the enemy team had exceeded Koji's expectation. In another flashback, it is revealed that Mikigami had predicted that their opponents would most likely be strong warrior types. In the present time, Zulu points out that Musashi is OP, so defeating is nearly impossible. She can't expect victory from Mary's side, so she just has to believe in Koji for their success. As Mary fights Musashi, she internally apologizes to Makoto and wants him to hold on for another 5 minutes in this match. With the announcer's voice echoing across the arena, the crowd roars for blood as both sides push themselves to their absolute limit. From the rafters, Desmos smiles and wonders who will be the one to break this deadlock. To other it may look like a close fight, but in reality, Mikigami and Mary are exhausted and can't go on for much longer. But then someone approaches her from behind and calls her Desmos One-chan. It was a girl named Luna, and upon seeing her, Desmos compliments her, saying she looks cute as always. She boasts about her slaves and reminds Desmos about their promise. She tells Luna not worry, because she hasn't forgotten about it. What's the promise, you ask? Desmos had promised Luna the seat of head priestess ISEKAI'D if her slaves won this match, leading to another subplot. While Mary faces Musashi and Mikigami squares off against Suzu, Desmos wonders which team will be the one to break the deadlock. Luna boldly claims that no matter how much Koji's team persists, there's no way their team wins due to their inferior skills. Because Musashi and Suzu are real-life war veterans who once stood against 500 men and defeated them. The scene then shifts to 1 month ago when Koji had dismantled Finn, and we see an aristocrat addressing Desmos, asking what is the meaning to this current situation. Turns out there were a bunch of aristocrats surrounding her, complaining that they were betting twice as money on Finn this time and now she lost to that noob named Koji. They pointed their fingers at the secretary, furious at her false prediction of the match. Tired of their whining, Desmos stood up and reminds them that her secretary never explicitly predicted that Finn would win this match. Her secretary speaks up and repeats the exact statement she gave before the match. Finn-sama is twice as strong than Koji, but the outcome is yet to be seen. These were her words before the match. Up until now, there had been a silent agreement that if the word twice was communicated in advance about a certain fighter, they were supposed to win. Seeing the pathetic faces of the aristocrats, Desmos finally understood what it feels like to be on the losing end of a bet. She then announced that her dearest friend and the head priestess ISEKAI'D has also lost 4 bets in a row. With that being said, since she has lost her 4 heavenly kings, it would take her quite a while to recover from that loss. Then with a stern voice, she demands if anyone here would like to challenge Mikigami, making everyone panic. Desmos then announces that the next game would be a tag team duel, in which Mikigami and one of his slaves would face an opponent team. With a bold tone, she called out the aristocrats and asked, "Wouldn't you like to destroy Mikigami along with ISEKA'D's 4 heavenly kings?" It is revealed that the seat of head priestess aka ISEKA'D's position is also on the line, which means winner takes it all. Everyone's heart skips a beat after hearing this deal, because they know if anyone secured the seat of head priestess, they would become filthy rich just by money from the construction work related to the Coliseum. Not to mention the prestige they'll get after defeating ISEKA'D's heavenly king along with a place in the management of the Coliseum. Suddenly a girl named Luna burst forward, while an aristocrat tries to hold her back. It is revealed that she is 15 years old, and she expresses the desire to make her Coliseum debut and face Mikigami as her first opponent. Turns out she is a fangirl of ISEKA'D and Desmos and stands both of them as if they are K-pop idols. It is revealed that she started chasing the bag since she was 10 years old, inspired by her 2 favorite women. Since the time is perfect, she'll take this opportunity and make her long-awaited Coliseum debut using the samurai and the ninja she bought from the slave market, while also getting ISEKA'D's seat in the process as well. But this wasn't easy for her since she had to use her every single penny and plunged into debt just to buy her slaves. Desmos gently brushed her hand over the girl's hair, confessing her fondness for Luna and recognizing the fierce ambition burning in her eyes. In the present time, Luna raises her hand in excitement, saying there's no way Musashi and Suzu would lose, since they were chosen by her. Musashi notices her from the rafters and this only causes distraction. But he is concerned with none of that. He just wants to secure the bag and head to his country. After that, he'll marry Suzu right away. Before leaving their country, Musashi revealed to Suzu that their country is getting united, which meant the war will be over. Since that was the current situation of their country, he wanted to achieve some big military accomplishments outside this country. After that, he'll become the head of his family and his grandfather along with his brother won't be able to complain anymore. He then looked at Suzu, whose real name is Rin, and asked what were her thoughts on this matter. But before she could even say anything, Musashi told her that he wants to have her by his side. Suzu couldn't believe it and started blushing immediately. He then showed her the mask and told her that she'll be named Suzu and he'll use his family name Sakai, just like in the stories. Musashi planned to do this because the law forbade a samurai from marrying a shinobi unless he proved himself and became clan leader. For him, victory was not just ambition, it was a necessity. Raising his sword in the air, he vowed to take Suzu as her bride, and this left everyone stunned. On the other side of the arena, Koji was busy burning Suzu's clones. This crowd started to get bored and pointed out that this has been going like this for a while now. While Suzu was dashing forward and extinguishing purgatory flames across the arena, she internally apologizes to Musashi, saying she isn't able to defeat the man who insulted him, but she was confident that there's no way he would lose one-on-one battle, and if they continued fighting this way, their victory was guaranteed. On the other hand, Koji was planning to go on the offense and decided he would attack her with one of his clones. By then he started doubting himself and asked himself if he can really pull this off. But then he looked at Mary, who was giving it her all against Musashi, and called himself an idiot while projects one of his clones towards Suzu while using combo version 2. She is caught off guard by this move and points out that he is really fast. But before the clone could reach her, it slips and falls in front of Suzu. She wastes no time and stabs him right in the chest. He immediately falls to the ground, screaming with pain. She wonders why would this idiot attempt such a risky move. But then the clone starts rage-baiting her and says Musashi doesn't love you, which gets a visible reaction out of Suzu. In a flashback, the two lovers finally escaped their country and officially entered the new country. While having a drink, Musashi says he can almost picture the panicked look across his brother's face right now. But then Suzu gets up and starts taking off her dress. Unlike our country, you can't invite ladies of the nights in the country, she says, and offers herself as meat relief for Musashi. He barely manages to control himself and tells her that he can't do this, while putting the dress back on her. Turning his back on her, he says that a woman like herself should save his kind of thing for marriage. Disappointed, she put her face down and leaves the room, saying she is going to get some fresh air. While moving through the hall, she ponders about Musashi because he was a well-known lady killer and he had many affairs in the past. Doubt starts to creep up in her mind when she reflects in her status, because unlike a samurai, shinobis were different and wondered if she was just overreaching. But even then, she just wanted to be embraced by him. She thought he liked her since before coming to this country, he told her that he wanted her next to him. But then she disappeared in the dark hallway, thinking she just got wrong idea. In the present moment, Suzu lost her sense to reason and turned into a beast, vowing to kill Koji. Seeing her like this, everyone in the arena got scared, wondering what just happened to her. Watching from afar, Koji noticed that his clone had managed to piss off Suzu, so he cancels his clone from existence. She looks really mad right now, but there's a problem. Although Koji's clone had successfully rage-baited her, he has no idea what made her angry. He thought when the clones disappeared, their memories would get transferred back to him, but in reality, nothing happened. Since each clone was independent with their own separate memories, there's just no way he can guess what managed to piss her off. But one thing's for sure, if he wants to end this fight, he just has to bite down on his mouthpiece and close the distance using his real body as a bait. Before he does that, he tries to test his luck one more time and starts shooting in the dark using Musashi's name. He shouts that Musashi doesn't love him and she is not his number one. In his mind, Koji wants to use every single phrase using Musashi's name so he can just make Suzu's clones disappear. She takes the rage bait once again and starts fuming. The ground then starts rumbling while she approaches Koji with her clones. He wields his knives and gets ready to defeat the fastest enemy. Both warriors approach each other using instant dash and hyper-extreme speed respectively. As they clash, Koji uses his combo version 2, instantly deflecting Suzu's attack. They were battling at such a high pace that even the announcer was having a hard time following their battle. The crowd erupts with cheers as they couldn't even believe how fast they were going against each other. Suzu clicked her tongue as she wasn't expecting Koji to fight at such a high pace while using multiple skills at the same time. On the other hand, Koji also acknowledged Suzu's strength, but also assured himself that if the fight went on like this, he can win it. But right now, the clones were approaching him very slowly and this was getting on his nerves. So to rile Suzu up, he once again rage baits her using Musashi's name and it works like a charm. As the clones approach him, he activates the combo version 3. Meanwhile, Mary and Musashi were still going at it like maniacs. Since she was using combo version 2 and 3 against him continuously, her power and speed increased dramatically, but it was also putting a lot of strain on her body. As a result, steam like flames burst forth from all parts of her body. Back to Suzu and Koji, they both attacked each other at the same time and landed their defining blows. They both hit the ground at the same time, feeling immense pain. Wondering how did this turn out to be a draw, they notice that their clones have also been mutually knocked out. Suzu doesn't understand how did she end up in this situation, but since he is also injured and will die, the match will be ruled in Musashi's favor. On the other side of the arena, Koji grits his teeth and channels his inner David Goggins, saying he can't die right now. Simultaneously, his clones start to disappear until only one remains. He puts all of his hopes on this one clone as he pushes himself to stay awake. Mary's battle with Musashi was entering its final stretch. Her vision started getting blurry and she wondered how many minutes have passed as her hearing also got worse. But then Koji's clone called her name, pulling her out of the void. He shouted combo version 4 and blasted a purgatory flame. As Musashi charged forward with the intent to finish this match, Mary activated the backstep evasion and started mimicking the movement of the flame. Before Musashi could understand what was going on, Mary slashed her blade across his body, separating his upper body from the lower half. Since the only one standing in the arena was Mary Landrot, the announcer declared Mikigami and her as the victor of this match. Luna gave a surprised Pikachu reaction while Desmos was laughing her ass off. She stomped on the ground as she was also amazed by what she just witnessed in the Coliseum. She then lifted Luna and told her she had tough luck this time, while smiling in front of her. Meanwhile, Luna was just thinking about the money she owed to the people, since she just lost it a few moments ago and now she is just a brokey, like me. She grabbed her head and started crying as she didn't understand how to deal with her circumstances. Mary stood in the middle of the arena and stared at the sky, professing her love for Mikigami as a single tear rolled down her cheek. Moments after getting resurrected back from death, Musashi didn't waste a single second and grabbed Luna. He then started running away from the arena as he was being chased by the guards. Shifting gears, he ran off like he mugged someone and the guards couldn't believe his speed. They entered the city slums and started investigating the area. Unbeknownst to them, Luna and Musashi were hiding just behind the ran-down area. One of the guards kicked a piece of wood, declaring they would definitely get the money back from them. Luna bites her finger and wonders how did her perfect plan failed in the first place. A few hours ago after losing the bet, Desmos smirked and asked Luna what was wrong. With tears in her eyes, she revealed her financial situation to Desmos, telling her that she had used all her money to buy those two, and now she is left with a giant loan. With a devious expression on her face, she looked at Luna and asked, "What do you think would happen if you told me that?" Grabbing her by the throat, Desmos revealed the true nature of Luna's business, turning unfortunate orphans into Coliseum slaves. Lifting her in the air, she told her that if you reveal your weakness in front of a villain, you will be devoured. But out of pity, she decided to teach Luna one last thing. In this world, a villain is born twice. Once when they are brought in this world by their parents, and the second time when they hit rock bottom after gambling. She got angry after getting these flashbacks and said, "I'm not a weak person." She then unlocked her hideout and revealed a rear gear she had taken from a business rival, the Devil's Mouth. This gear works as communication device, just like a walkie-talkie, and has to be used in combination with the Devil's Ear. Since Suzu had already swallowed the Devil's Mouth, she could hear what she was hearing and planned to find out Mikigami's weakness. After that, she will sell this information to the highest bidder and pay off her debts while regaining her position in the process. Seeing her like this, Musashi remembers the time when Luna came up to them and asked for their help. She straight up told them that she wanted to buy a Bugatti like Andrew Tate, while also revealing that she had broken the law, framed various people and took out loans, just to buy them. Looking at their faces, she begs them to grant her this victory. Seeing a fire in her eyes, Musashi knew she was villain and agreed to help her. Back at Koji's chamber, Suzu was sitting in her small chamber. She noted that it had already been 10 minutes since she was brought here and wondered if Mikigami was conspiring something with his slaves. But then the door suddenly opened and Koji was standing but naked in front of her. Meanwhile, his dragon was already in the combat stance, hard and upright. He told her that he had already deployed a clone in the other room, which was taking care of the business. Running on Diddy Demon Time, he pointed his finger towards her and told Suzu that he was going to embrace her for 3 days and 3 nights. Turns out this girl who grew up in a patriarchal society was weak to masculinity. She then got up and promised to serve him with everything she had to offer. Back to Musashi, who was hearing all this via Devil's Ear, got traumatized. His future wife was going to be Koji's meat relief and now he was getting cucked in real time. Before clapping them cheeks, Koji thanked Zulu because she had informed him about Suzu's weakness. She had told him to be unapologetic and dignified, while not taking half measures just to spare her feelings. So her did just that and delivered S-tier backshots. Musashi couldn't take it anymore and ran out of Luna's hideout while she chased him.